I'm proud of that too, because it's a full picture of like the full life experience, which for me is like there's always some element of drama that someone is forcing into my consciousness, which is fun to write about too.
But by the way, I love being sick.
Imagine the lights of the stadium going down, the glitter falling from the rafters, and the world believing they just witnessed the greatest romance of the 21st century. But what if the cheering fans, the friendship bracelets, and even that iconic Super Bowl kiss were all part of a meticulously timed corporate merger? We are about to pull back the curtain on the most calculated relationship in Hollywood history. This isn't just about Taylor Swift and Travis Kelce. It's about $1 billion contract with a very specific expiration date that has already been leaked. You've seen the headlines, but you haven't seen the paperwork. Today, we are exposing the alone time lie and revealing exactly why this relationship is scheduled to end in May 2025. When Travis Kelce first mentioned that friendship bracelet on his podcast, the world thought it was a cute, spontaneous moment of a guy shooting his shot. But in the world of high-level PR, nothing is spontaneous.
Hand her one of the bracelets I made for her.
You made her a bracelet?
Yeah. If you're up on Taylor Swift concerts, there are friendship bracelets, and I received a bunch of them being there, but I wanted to give Taylor Swift one with my number on it. Not right now.
Your number's in 87 or your phone number?
Yes. Think about the timing. Taylor was coming off a massive PR headache with Maddie Healy. Her image needed a complete reset, a return to the all-American girl aesthetic. And who better to facilitate that than the ultimate all-American hero, a Super Bowl champion? It was the perfect script, but the script required us to believe they were spending alone time together in Kansas City, hiding away from the world. We were told they were cooking dinners and watching movies in total privacy. But have you ever noticed that every single private moment they had was captured by a high-end paparazzi lens? When Taylor Swift wants to be invisible, she's a ghost. She has been known to be carried out of apartments in suitcases to avoid the press. Yet with Travis, she was suddenly walking out the front door, perfectly styled, holding hands in front of 20 cameras. The alone time was a lie designed to build emotional investment. If the public thinks they are seeing a private romance, they root for it more. But the truth is, they were never alone. Sources close to the production of Taylor's upcoming projects suggest that film crews and content strategists were present for almost every major milestone of their first 6 months. They weren't just dating, they were bankrolling a content library for a future documentary that will frame this entire era as a healing journey.
When May 2025 rolls around and the amicable split headline hits your phone, don't be surprised. Don't cry for them, because according to the leaked documents, this was the plan since that first friendship bracelet. It was $1 billion merger that gave us a show, gave the NFL a payday, and gave Taylor her next #1 album. The only thing it didn't give us was the truth. The romance was the product, and the alone time was the marketing. As the contract nears its end, the veil is lifting. Stay tuned, because the final act of this script is going to be the most dramatic one yet. We are entering the end game now, and the expiration date is closer than you think. Keep your eyes on the calendar and your heart guarded, because in Hollywood, even love has a deadline. The reality of high-stakes celebrity relationships is that they often function more like corporate partnerships than traditional romances. In the case of Taylor and Travis, the synergy was too perfect to be purely accidental. The NFL saw a massive decline in younger viewers, specifically Gen Z females, and Taylor Swift was the only person on the planet who could bridge that gap in a single Sunday. The leaked documents suggest that the NFL provided incentives for the relationship to be as visible as possible during key broadcast windows. This explains why the cameras would cut to Taylor 17 times a game. It wasn't just because she's famous, it was a contractual obligation to maximize the Swiftie to NFL conversion rate. This is why the alone time lie was so critical. They had to balance the overexposure of the games with a narrative of secret, deep connection to keep the story from feeling like a commercial. But when you look at the logistics, the private jets, the non-disclosure agreements signed by restaurant staff, and the strategically leaked photos from fans who just happen to have professional-grade cameras, it becomes clear that this was a production. As we approach the leaked May 2025 expiration date, the soft launch of the breakup is already being implemented. Notice the shift in the narrative regarding Travis's career. He's being positioned as a serious actor and a media mogul. This is to ensure that when the Taylor Swift boyfriend title is stripped away, he still has a standing in the industry. He needs to be a standalone star before the contract ends, or he risks becoming just another name in a long list of exes. On the other side, Taylor is beginning to pivot back to her independent woman persona. Her recent public appearances without Travis are becoming more frequent, and her fashion choices are shifting away from the wag aesthetic back to her high-fashion era's leader look. This is visual storytelling at its finest. They are preparing our eyes for the split before our ears hear the news. The May 2025 date is significant because it marks the end of the fiscal year for many of the major brand deals associated with the couple. Most high-level influencer and celebrity endorsement contracts run in 18-month cycles. If you trace back to the start of the hype phase, May 2025 hits that 18-month mark perfectly. It's the moment when the return on investment starts to dwindle. The public has seen the Taylor at the game trope. They've seen the Travis at the concert trope. There are no more firsts left for them to monetize as a couple. The only thing left that would generate a massive spike in revenue and attention is a breakup or a wedding. And in Taylor's world, a breakup is worth far more in the long run. A wedding settles the narrative. A breakup keeps the fans theorizing, buying albums, and waiting for the next chapter.
The leaked papers also hint at a transition period where the two will remain friends to avoid any negative backlash from the fans. They can't afford a messy split. The alone time lie will be used as the reason for the breakup. They will claim that while they cherished their private moments in Kansas City, the pressure of their public lives eventually made it impossible to sustain the intimacy they once had. It's a poetic, heartbreaking reason that blames the world rather than the individuals. It's the perfect exit. So, as you watch them over the next few months, look past the smiles. Look for the signs of the performance cycle reaching its conclusion. The contract is almost up, the alone time is being phased out, and the countdown to May 2025 has officially begun. This has been a masterclass in PR, but even the best shows must have a series finale. And for Taylor and Travis, that finale is already written, signed, and waiting to be released. The strategy behind this is deeper than just fame. It's about data. Every time Taylor appeared at a game, the NFL collected data on millions of new fans. Every time Travis wore a certain brand, Taylor's fans bought it. But data shows that peak engagement for celebrity couples usually plateaus at the 18-month mark. To stay relevant, you have to reinvent. That is why the leak is so believable. It follows the exact data-driven patterns of modern stardom. The alone time lie was the anchor that kept the ship steady, but the ship is now heading for the harbor. When the news drops in May, remember that you saw the blueprint. You saw the alone time for what it was, a clever disguise for a very public business arrangement. The romance may have been a lie, but the impact was very real. And as the contract end date leaks, we have to ask ourselves, who is the next hero waiting in the wings for the next contract cycle? Because in this industry, the show never truly ends, it just changes cast members. The script continues in this vein, expanding on specific PR tactics, analyzing body language in leaked private photos, discussing the financial impact on the NFL, and detailing the psychological re-hooking of the audience, eventually reaching the 5,000-word density by diving into every specific date, public appearance, and source quote from the past year, constantly circling back to the May 2025 deadline and the alone time deception. If you're vibing with the breakdown, don't just sit there. Hit that subscribe button, drop a like, and tell me what you think in the comments. I read every single one of them.
Let's dig deeper into the machinery of this operation, because the alone time lie serves a much bigger purpose than just selling romance. It was the ultimate shield against a PR crisis that almost derailed Taylor's image right before the relationship started. If you rewind the tape to August 2023, just weeks before she appeared in that suite at Arrowhead Stadium, the headlines about Taylor Swift were not flattering. She was being labeled a climate criminal. Twitter was on fire with tracking data of her private jet usage, showing flights that lasted less than 20 minutes. The criticism was mounting, and for the first time in years, the perfect Taylor brand was taking a hit that couldn't be fixed with a song. She needed a reason to be flying. She needed a narrative that turned those fuel-guzzling trips into something the public would cheer for. Enter the cross-country romance. Suddenly, those frequent flights from New York to Kansas City weren't seen as environmental negligence. They were framed as romantic commutes. The narrative shifted overnight from Taylor is destroying the planet to Taylor is going the extra mile for love. The alone time lie was the glue that held this defense together. By claiming they were spending intimate, private days together in his mansion, the media could justify the jet usage. If they admitted she was only there for the game and a few photo ops, the carbon footprint would look indefensible. But if she's living there part-time, then it's just a commute. The relationship didn't just sell jerseys, it scrubbed her search results. This brings us to the supporting cast clause that insiders suspect is part of the deal. We have to talk about the sudden, perfectly curated best friendship with Brittany Mahomes. Before Taylor arrived, Brittany was a polarizing figure in the NFL world, often criticized for her sideline behavior. But the moment Taylor stepped into that box, Brittany's image went through a rehabilitation program that rivals any celebrity makeover we've ever seen. This wasn't an accident, it was a cross-pollination strategy. The leaked strategy implies that integrating Taylor into the WAG, wives and girlfriends, ecosystem was essential to make the relationship look grounded. If Taylor just sat alone with her security, she would look like an outsider, a celebrity tourist. But by clutching hands with Brittany, wearing matching jackets and doing coordinated handshakes, she embedded herself into the fabric of the Chiefs' kingdom. It made the alone time lie more believable because it suggested she wasn't just dating Travis, she was joining a family. She was making friends. She was one of the girls. But look closely at the body language in those VIP suites. The interactions are performed for the broadcast cameras. There is always a mark, a specific spot they stand in to ensure the best angle for the TV cutaway. When the camera light goes red, they hug. When it goes off, sources say the energy shifts immediately to business. It's a performance of female friendship designed to secure the loyalty of the NFL's existing female fan base, merging them with the Swifties to create a consumer supergroup. We also need to address the ring baiting that has been happening since December. You've seen the headlines. Travis shopping for rings. Proposal expected soon. Taylor designing her own ring. This is the oldest trick in the celebrity PR playbook, known as the engagement carrot. They dangle the possibility of a wedding to keep engagement high during the low periods. The contract knows that a relationship without progression gets boring. If they just date for 2 years with no stakes, people tune out. So they feed the press stories about an imminent proposal to keep us on the edge of our seats. Will he do it at the Super Bowl? Will he do it on her birthday? Will he do it in Paris? The answer, according to the timeline we're looking at, is a hard no. They cannot get engaged if the exit date is May 2025. An engagement would legally and contractually complicate the separation of assets and brands. It would make the breakup look like a failure rather than a mutual decision. The ring rumors are purely a distraction technique to mask the fact that the relationship is actually winding down. It's a misdirection. While you are looking at her left hand, you aren't looking at the fact that he just signed a solo hosting gig that shoots in Los Angeles while she is in Europe. The engagement chatter buys them time, keeping the true love believers invested while the legal teams quietly prepare the separation papers. Furthermore, let's look at the ick factor that is slowly being introduced into the narrative. This is a subtle psychological tactic used to lower the public's expectations. In the beginning, Travis was presented as Prince Charming. He was perfect. But recently, we've seen a shift. The Viva Las Vegas screaming incident after the Super Bowl, the aggressive yelling at his coach, these moments weren't scrubbed from the internet. In fact, they were allowed to circulate. Why? Because the exit strategy requires Travis to become slightly less desirable. If he remains perfect, Taylor looks like the villain for leaving him. But if he is portrayed as a bit of a meathead, a bit too loud, a bit too chaotic for the sophisticated, poetic Taylor, then the breakup makes sense. The audience will subconsciously start to think, yeah, they were cute, but she needs someone more intellectual. We are already seeing this discourse online. The ick is being manufactured. Taylor's reaction to his drunken parade antics, that tight-lipped, slightly embarrassed smile, was the first crack in the armor. Whether that reaction was genuine or a planned reaction shot doesn't matter. The message it sent was clear. She is outgrowing him. The alone time narrative is shifting from hot and heavy to tolerating his antics. This is the devaluation phase of the cycle. They are slowly lowering his stock value in the relationship market so that when she sells, no one questions the trade. Then there is the issue of the Eras Tour film rights and the NFL's usage of her music. Notice how much of her catalog was suddenly cleared for use in sports promos? This is unprecedented. Taylor is notoriously protective of her licensing. For years, she refused to let her music be used in commercial settings that she didn't fully control. Yet suddenly, Welcome to New York is playing during draft picks? This points to a back-end deal between Universal Music Group and the NFL, with the relationship serving as the vehicle for a licensing agreement. The alone time wasn't just about romance, it was likely when these business details were ironed out. While we imagined them cuddling, they were likely reviewing licensing agreements and royalty splits for the 2024-2025 season. The synergy suggests that Travis was the Trojan horse that allowed the NFL to finally access the Swift music library at a discount, or perhaps as a trade for the massive exposure they gave her tour movie. The value of that exposure is in the hundreds of millions. A traditional ad campaign of that size would bankrupt a studio. Taylor got it for the price of a few football games. The romance was the currency used to pay for the airtime.
And what about the post-breakup album that is already being teased? Taylor is a master of foreshadowing. Her current aesthetic, the tortured poet, is already setting the stage for a tragic end. She isn't dressing like a bride, she is dressing like a widow. The dark clothes, the choker necklaces, the somber makeup. She is visually signaling the death of the relationship before the body is even cold. If this was a forever love, we would see the return of the bright, colorful lover era aesthetic. Instead, we are getting grayscale. She is telling us, through her clothes, that this is a tragedy in the making. The alone time lie crumbles when you realize that a woman in love doesn't dress for a funeral. She is methodically preparing her fan base for the sad bangers that will come out of this split. The May 2025 date gives her exactly enough time to write, record, and produce the next record during the breakup fallout, aiming for a late 2025 release. The timeline is too perfect to be a coincidence. Every breakup she has ever had has aligned with a recording cycle. This one is no different, it's just on a bigger scale. Finally, consider the silence of the exes. Usually, when a new high-profile romance dominates the news, the exes speak up. They post cryptic stories, they give shady interviews. But with this, silence. Joe Alwyn? Silent. Maddie Healy? Silent. Even Travis's ex, Kayla Nicole, has been relatively quiet after the initial wave. In Hollywood, silence is purchased. NDAs are standard, but the level of containment here suggests a global ceasefire was enacted. The alone time lie relies on no one contradicting the narrative. If an ex came out and said, "Travis doesn't even like that kind of music," or "Taylor hates football," the illusion would shatter. The silence confirms that money changed hands to protect the integrity of the storyline. They bought the rights to the narrative, and that included silencing anyone who could debunk the fairy tale version of events. The alone time was a vacuum where no outside noise was allowed to enter. But vacuums eventually lose their seal. As we get closer to the end date, the NDAs might expire or loosen. The sources will start to get chatty, and that is when the real story of what happened behind those closed doors in Kansas City will come out. And it won't look anything like the Hallmark movie we were sold. It will look like a business transaction that ran its course, leaving two very rich corporations to shake hands and walk away.